Detours, brought to you by Sports and Spokes, the magazine for wheelchair sports and recreation. Just a few weeks ago, the Paralympic Games came to a close, and now that the dust settled, it's time for reflection. I'm joined today by head coach of the USA rugby team, Joe Delagrave, who's a two-time Paralympian himself. And we're going to talk about that silver medal the team captured in Paris. And many believe that this tourney was one of the toughest of all time. And then a little bit later, we're going to get into the fact that Joe is auctioning off a team ball, a rugby ball, to raise money for SCI awareness. But Joe, let's go ahead and jump right in with Paris. Silver medal. We just kind of touched on this to a bit, but silver medal is pretty satisfactory under the circumstances.
It is. It is. I think, right away after my wife and I and our family went to Rome to see some sights and vacation a little bit, but I don't think I was not a good vacationer. I was a little kind of down in the dumps on losing and getting so close again. But removed from that after a couple weeks, I think it's a great accomplishment for the program, for what we've been doing the last 3 years, and something that I'm proud of as a leader of this program. Really proud of what we did and what we accomplished and how we went about, which was the toughest Paralympic tournament we've had to date in wheelchair rugby.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. You should say that, Joe. I was touching on this with Kevin Orr, as you know, also sort of coincidentally, who built the Japan program, and now he's home dealing with some health issues. But Kevin touched on this, and he said that this was the toughest tourney that he had ever seen, with maybe the deepest team field ever. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all the way through, and Germany was no joke. They played us really close up until the fourth quarter as well. But Denmark's playing everyone in their pool, which they didn't win a game there in their pool, but they lost by 1, 2, 3 points. So it's really close, and to do that 5 games in 5 days against really tough competition is, I always call it the gauntlet. 5 games in 5 days already, and then on top of that, the competition's that tough. Makes podium aspirations really hard for every country that's involved. And so that's where the feeling of being proud comes into the accomplishment.
Well, pride coming into it is certainly a factor, because there was absolutely no way that you could anticipate how tough the competition would be. Well, you did, and it was. So let's go ahead. I don't want to go all the way back to the beginning of the tournament, because, as you said, it was 5 days. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys actually had 1 day off somewhere within the tournament, but it was just brutal. You guys, you played and played.
We didn't have a day off. We're the only Paralympic team that doesn't have days off in the Paralympics, which is something that I think needs to change from an athlete health standpoint, and then I think just makes the tournament better, because it allows the games to breathe a little bit. And the media exposure of Paris was amazing, and so allowing a couple days off here and there would amplify the media opportunities for athletes, for programs, for the excitement and the buzz that was around the game already. So, but yeah, it was a tough tournament.
You've been to 3 games now, once as a coach, twice as a player. What was the experience like in Paris? Were you satisfied? Did you feel like it was a really worthy games? Obviously, it had to be a happier games in Tokyo. Nobody was in the stands. But what was this games all about, and how satisfactory was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think the numbers came through, and there's close to 84,000 people throughout the 5 days that came to the venue, to Champ de Mars Arena, and watched wheelchair rugby over the course of 5 days. So that's a huge number, which is great. Media exposure in the U.S. Was at an all-time high. I think over the course of the Paralympics, they had 15.4 million people tune in to some sort of Paralympic event.
Definitely.
So the exposure's there. It's growing. I think it's going to grow through LA 28. But I think with that, and this is similar to London for me, where London you saw like a change in the Paralympic movement and exposure, and I think um, GB Paralympics and Channel 4 and everyone involved with the London Paralympics did such a good job of getting the general population excited about the Paralympic Games, and wheelchair rugby was a big hit there. And I think it probably would have happened in Tokyo if COVID wasn't around as well. But um, it's growing, and I think here's where um, people like you come in, Bob, that are you guys are doing a great job with detours and promoting athletes and coaches and sports and whatnot, and there needs to be more of that, and we need to do a better job, I think, within the Paralympic movement to take this momentum, do something with it, not let it sit for 4 years and then unlock the closet and pick it back up. There needs to be a kind of a gentle momentum continuing to LA, and I think that takes action.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for that. And now that we've gone there, I just want to say quickly that I thought Mark Zupan did a pretty fine job. He really helped explain the game. If you didn't know anything about the game, you knew more, and if you knew a little about the game, you knew even more beyond that, because he did a really fine job explaining the game, and that's the kind of thing that I think we need to really kind of open the door on. And with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the games. So, in the first round with Japan, you guys lose to them, but it's not by very much. I think it was 1 point, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
We lost by three.
By three. Okay,
Eventually
so
lost by
so
three, but yeah, yeah.
so not really much. But at that point, when you go back to your hotel room and you're starting to ponder what could happen next, you have to think there's a possibility you're going to face Japan again, and you do. Are you starting to think about adjustments at that point, or are you satisfied that maybe you can overcome that 3 points if you do get to a final match?
Yeah, I think this experience, my first time in the Paralympics as a coach, had some experience in an environment like this at World Championships in 2022, my first season as coach. But really, like that's something that I'm reflecting on a lot. On like what could have I done better to prepare us better for that gold medal game against Japan. But I think to pull the curtains back for a second, we win against or we lose against Japan by three. We're at a goal differential of zero. So moving into Germany, we've got to face Germany. There's a point differential. Um, not to get too nerdy on you, but basically, like what I'm thinking is, okay, against Germany, if we win by 12, that eliminates one potential outcome where we're out if Canada beats Japan. Canada, Japan are playing the same day we're playing Germany. We play before them. So if we beat them by 12, um, we eliminate at least one scenario where we could be bounced out due to point differential if there ends up being a tie. That would mean Canada would have to beat Japan. That doesn't end up happening, but we're focused on Germany. We're making sure that we're not taking them lightly. We're talking to the guys about, hey, this is a good team. They're a solid team. They pick and roll. They pass really well. They've got a two in Josko Wilkie. That's probably the best two in the world, 2.0 in the world classification, who's very dominant with his chair position and fast. And um, but then from there, if we make it through, which we did, now we got to focus on winning our semifinal. So like really, like to answer your question shortly, yes, but at the same time, there's steps in place that we need to be ready to go for our semifinal game as before we get to a final. So that's all in the span of that thought process, and everything is in the span of, we finished the game against Japan. We played Germany in less than 24 hours, and then we switched to, okay, well, now we know our opponent finally. We're playing GB. We've got to focus on them. So there's time in tournament to really be able to go, hey, let's break Japan down right now because we've got to focus on Germany, and then we got to focus on Great Britain to get to the gold medal game. And so
Exactly.
some of that is done before the tournament, but then obviously you're playing against these guys and you're seeing that they're running maybe slightly different lines and whatnot. And so that's all taken into consideration as well.
We'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Sports and Spokes Magazine. For nearly 50 years, they've produced stories on iconic athletes performing at the top of their game, given generational coverage of sports dating back to the 1970s, and they've shown the way with exciting and timeless magazine cover shots. To stay on top of all the latest news from the world of high performance adaptive sports, go to sportsandspokes.com. Sports and Spokes, the magazine for wheelchair sports and recreation. So let me go ahead and break this down really quick. Japan goes up against Australia, beats them 52-51. Tight game right there. You guys go up against the defending champs from 2020, Great Britain, and you take them down 50-43. You're feeling pretty good. You go in, and we already know the outcome. Australia ends up taking the bronze, and you guys end up getting the silver against Japan 48-41. Did you feel like there was anything that you could have done maybe a little bit differently? The chatter, I don't want to go too deep into the chatter on social media, but obviously it was there. And I'm sure you've heard these things. Chuck Aoki looked tired. Sarah Adam had played her heart out. What a warrior. First time we saw, a 3.0 woman just playing her heart out. Did you feel like at any point in time there were some adjustments that you could have made in that final game, or was it getting to a point in that final quarter that it was just preordained which way this was going to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's we had our best game against Great Britain. I thought we were prepared really well for them. I thought the guys played really well in that game, both offensively and defensively. And throughout the tournament, our biggest issue was taking care of the ball. I thought we forced
Mm-hmm.
too many, or we gave the ball away too many times. And really, it comes down to a couple simple things. You've got to take care of the ball. You've got to have good clock management, and then you got to be on the same page defensively. But within taking care of the ball is the adjustments on offense. Um, Japan played a certain way that we've seen before, where they put two high pointers on Chuck down low, press our setup lower and lower towards the baseline, and then from there our three man and our two, which is in this case a lot of times that was Sarah and Josh Wheeler need to pick up the slack offensively, whether that's back picking a low pointer to create a mismatch or picking and rolling more efficiently, which unfortunately, we didn't do a good enough job on. I thought, like in our offense with Jeff Butler inbounding, we could have played better as well. Um, but Japan, I think the biggest thing that the chatter of it and that Chuck's gas and whatnot, asking someone to play every minute, every second of every game, five days in a row is a big ask. I
Sure.
think you look at teams that do that, and they didn't podium. I think Riley got some time off during the tournament.
What
Um,
let me jump in real quick.
yeah,
When
yeah,
you get into the timeouts, and I saw you were pulling some timeouts at the end of that game, trying to get that gold medal game back in reach, and it was really obvious. I watched the game. I could see Chuck was laid over. He was looking pretty tired. Is it the equivalent? First of all, did you ever ask him at some point, "Hey, Chuck, do you want to come out? Are you a little gassed? Do you need a break?" And secondly, would asking a guy like Chuck Aoki, "Hey, do you want to come out?" Would that be the equivalent of saying to Tom Brady in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, "Hey, man, maybe you ought to sit on the bench for a couple minutes and suck some gas over there before you go back in the game"?
yeah. I think no, like he wasn't going to come out in that game, um, based on the way we had built it. And this goes back to really like uh, 2023 um, in IWRC in Paris. So less than a year before the Paralympics, we had some guys that were classed out, Bunji Hutcherson and Talon Teague, that are high pointers that probably would have helped in this Paralympic tournament. That's all hindsight, but like the way we were building it in the quad is, and we did this in World Championships, where there's 8 games in 7 days, so it's even a bigger ask. But we built that to where Corey Pudabaugh, who was on the team at that point before he moved on, was getting minutes for Chuck and getting breaks for Chuck throughout the tournament, so he
Hmm.
could be more ready in semifinals and finals. And then with them classing out, and we felt that Zion Reddington wasn't quite ready for that moment. I thought it was a great Paralympics to bring him in and be able to expose him as an 18-year-old kid to what the Paralympics is, to get him to move forward in his career. But um, just didn't feel like we had the personnel to take Chuck off the court and
Hey, not
be able
not
to
o-
stop the
not o-
bleeding.
not only that, just really quick, when you were talking about Zion, one of the things that I think that people don't understand is the complexity when you're a coach of mixing and matching those numbers to get the correct number of people out on the court that can maximize what you can do. With Zion, he's carrying that extra point 0.5, so you've got to make a sacrifice somewhere else. So if he's not fully experienced and absolutely ready to go, you can't put him in the game.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we felt. And as a 3-5, you've got to be a dominant alpha on the court. Especially if we're trying to get Chuck off, that means in that case with our lineups, we'd be playing, if we wanted to play high-low, it'd be a 3-5, 2-5, 1-1, which we didn't feel like we liked. And then otherwise it'd be a balanced line, which is a really tough line to play in as a newer 3-5, where you really got to be the man out there, or woman, depending on if you're 3-5F. But so we just didn't feel like that was in our best interest for winning. But I think what I was getting at with every team that has a guy that plays every single minute.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's say Riley played the entire time. They got bronze at the best. Otherwise, it's GB Stuart Robinson was on the court pretty much the whole time, and they got fourth. And um, France has Hibernat that's on the court all the time. They got fifth, and Canada sixth, and so on. So like, it's probably not the best strategy moving forward on Chuck Aoki playing every single second of every single game. And it's something that we'll look at in this next quad. So, but that all, taken into consideration, another reason why I'm very proud of our accomplishment
and,
with what we had.
and as well you should be. Joe, I would love to keep talking about this tournament because there really is so much that we could delve into. It was a fantastic tournament. You did a great job. So proud of you guys for getting that silver. I know another reason that we're on here today is to talk a little bit about the fact that it's Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, and you're auctioning off a team ball. It's been signed by many of the team players. Talk about this.
Yeah, yeah. So I work as an ambassador and a captain with Wings for Life, which is an organization that every single dollar that comes in, every single penny that comes in goes directly to spinal cord injury research. And it's near and dear to my heart with a guy with a spinal cord. And, really, I've been sitting in a chair for 20 years. And I don't wake up in the morning thinking about walking and whatnot, like or whatever. But I love the research that they're doing that's very tangible, whether that's some stimulation with the vagus nerve or some different clinical trials that they're doing to try to get people that are living with spinal cord injuries a better quality of life, whether that's through bowels, bladder, hand function, whatever it is. And so we the entire team signed this ball to auction off for Wings for Life, and just trying to help the cause there. And I like that they're going at this as hard as they can, and for the last 20 years now. And while people like me and you are living life to the fullest and living our life as best we can, you know, despite the rolling around and being in a
Yeah,
chair.
truthfully, Joe, even beyond that, the whole factor of what you were talking about in reference to, bodily care and whatnot. You and I, guys like us, it's never been about walking. People have this preoccupation with the fact that it's the wheelchair, and the wheelchair is really, in many ways, the most infinitesimal part of this whole program.
Yeah, yeah, yes, 100%.
So Yeah. So, hey, good job for you. And is there a place people can go to auction, put in a bid for the ball?
Yeah, easiest way is jump on Instagram. The link's in my bio here through the end of September. I'll leave it up for a little bit, but yeah, it's a cool little memento where it's a game used ball that we used in our tournament, home tournament, and really cool little piece of memorabilia.
Hey, super job, Joe. Outstanding capturing the silver in Paris. You're two-time Paralympian yourself. I think you're an unreal spokesman for the sport. And I want to thank you for coming on today because I think that you really illustrate exactly what our community stands for.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that.